On today's video, we'll be looking at a case study of migrating an application from on-prem to the AWS cloud. So the cloud expense broker met with the Acme company to advise them on migrating their online catalog from on-premise to AWS. We met with the cloud architects early and walked through the various configuration options and the cost ramifications of each. We used what we call our cost containment checklist to help them understand what reconfiguration options were available, how difficult they were to implement, and what the cost savings of each would be. They wanted the application migrated in 9 months. So we realized this would be primarily a lift and shift with some optimization. We ruled out re-architecting to move it to a cloud-native environment altogether. And we focused on what we could do in re-platforming, taking their two-tier front end and back end and turning that front end into a web and an application tier. And by doing that, we would be setting the stage so that eventually they could use a stateless web and perhaps an application tier that could take advantage of auto-scaling. We quantified the capacity of the servers and database on-premise to right-size the cloud resources. The application was a front end running Windows and a SQL Server database. We used the AWS Database Migration Service to estimate the effort in moving SQL Server to MySQL and determined it would take too long, so we left that as a day 2 effort. We focused on the development environment and we identified using spot instances on the EC2 servers to reduce those costs significantly, as well as pausing the EC2s and the RDS databases on the weekends. A good portion of the cost was designated to disaster recovery. They were using a dedicated DR site, and so with AWS, we were able to design a pilot-light DR with a database that was very small in that alternate region using a single AZ. And then we exported snapshots every 15 minutes to S3, which would be used to build the database in the event of a DR. This gave them 85% savings over the dedicated DR site. We then used those savings to help with the database migration costs, as well as re-engineering. After doing hundreds of application migrations, the important points from this case study are: get with the architects early, give them as many choices for optimizing the design in the cloud, identify those areas which you can optimize during the initial implementation and those which need to be left to a more strategic day 2 approach. It's important to minimize your expenses in migration so cloud doesn't start off being an expensive proposition. Well, that wraps today's video. If you liked what you saw, please hit the subscribe button.